For every moment of tension between Israelis and Palestinians, each building reduced to rubble, every detonation heard, every line of defense breached, each rocket that illuminates the night skies, and for every step a soldier takes in a war zone, there's a hefty price to pay, a cost that expands and takes its toll for generations. Beyond the monetary costs, there lies the immeasurable pain of lives lost and futures altered, leaving an irreversible dent not only in the lives of civilians but also in the very fabric of a nation's progress. In this video, we'll delve deep into the intricate task of laying down the cost of the long-standing conflict between Israeli and Palestinian forces. Israel is located in the Middle East on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea. It borders Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt. Now, going inward to Israel's southwest is the Gaza Strip, and to its east is the West Bank, both of which are Palestinian territories. Israel, a nation founded in 1948, only 75 years ago, resides in a volatile region where conflict lurks in the form of border disputes, threats from other nations, and the ever-present danger of terrorism. Undoubtedly, Israel has consistently prioritized its national defense, with recent statistics that only confirm this trend. The nation's defense budget for 2023 stands at an estimated $23.6 billion, an amount which includes aid that Israel received from the United States. Israel's $23.6 billion defense allocation cements its position as the Middle East's third-largest military spender in 2023. This monumental budget was further supplemented with aid from the U.S. military to Israel, which reached a staggering $3.8 billion in 2023. An allocation that came from the 10-year $38 billion deal signed under the administration of former U.S. President Barack Obama in 2016. Of the $3.8 billion Israel received from the U.S., $500 million was dedicated specifically to fortifying Israel's advanced missile defense systems. Looking at U.S. foreign aid from 1946 to 2023, the U.S. gave Israel more financial aid than any other country, totaling $263 billion of financial assistance. That's a lot, especially when you see that Egypt, the second highest on the list, got $151.9 billion. In other words, Israel got nearly twice as much money as Egypt did over these years. For many years, the U.S. has strongly supported Israel's right to defend itself. This commitment is evident through the policy even codified in U.S. law dedicated to upholding Israel's qualitative military edge, or QME. The QME is a major driver behind Israel's defense spending. This policy ensures Israel maintains a technological and qualitative advantage over potential threats. While the QME is beneficial for Israel, it also promotes U.S. interests in maintaining peace and stability in the Middle East. Because of this policy, it has rendered Israel's defense market as a mosaic of various sectors, each formed to respond to different threats and strategic needs, from military fixed-wing aircraft, land vehicles, submarines, electronic warfare, and artillery. Specifically, investment in missiles and missile defense systems makes up their largest sector as of 2023. To further defend their borders, Israel built the Iron Wall, which came into completion in 2021. This wall stretches 65 kilometers, standing tall at 6 meters. This barrier took 3.5 years and a whopping 140,000 tons of metal to build. Dubbed the Smart Fence, it is equipped with a multitude of cameras, radars, sensors, and an advanced maritime barrier that detects infiltration by sea, as well as a remote-controlled weapon system. This iron wall has cost Israel the hefty amount of $1.1 billion to build. One of the reasons for all these billion-dollar military expenditures is the long-standing conflict between Israeli and Palestinian forces, which once again broke out on Saturday, October 7th of 2023, as Hamas launched the deadliest and most offensive attack that Israel has witnessed in the last half-century. But first, who and what is Hamas? It's an acronym which translates to the Islamic Resistance Movement and is a Palestinian political and military organization established in 1987. The organization governs over 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and is most recognized for its military opposition to Israel. The attack on October 7th began with the firing of rockets that struck even areas like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, which rarely received direct hits due to Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. This Iron Dome came from the joint development of Israel and the U.S., who backed the project with a $200 million grant. Each battery of the Iron Dome costs about $150 million, while each intercepting missile costs about $40,000. Israel has 10 Iron Dome batteries deployed across the country, representing a total investment of approximately $1.5 billion when considering each battery's $150 million price tag. While the exact number of missiles intercepted by the Iron Dome since its deployment can hardly be identified, it's evident that each missile interception comes with a significant financial cost. The Iron Dome has been deployed in Israel since 2011 and has since then saved many civilian lives during various conflicts. Following this surprise attack, Israel formally declared war on Hamas. While Israel's economy is shelling out huge amounts of money, it also cannot be overlooked how the long-standing conflict between Israel and Palestine has deeply affected the Palestinian economy and the living conditions of Palestinians brought by the Israeli occupation. For many years, Palestinian territories have faced significant and serious economic challenges, living under blockades with limited access to global markets. This blockade and imposed restrictions took place after a second major uprising that started in September of the year 2000, after peace talks in July 2000 at Camp David failed. The imposed system of mobility restriction has rendered serious economic and income loss for the occupied Palestinian territory. Starting in October 2000, there were many more closure days, peaking at 244 days in 2001. These days gradually decreased over the years, dropping to 34 days in 2007. Israel's strict closure policy in the West Bank has deeply affected the Palestinian territories, placing the region under a prolonged curfew for consecutive months. These curfews have effectively paralyzed economic activity across Palestinian cities and villages. Numerous Palestinians who were employed in Israel and its settlements were now confined to their homes, unable to reach their workplaces under strict curfew conditions. The impact has also been felt deeply by non-regular wage earners in the West Bank and self-employed individuals in urban areas and refugee camps. With shops shuttered and businesses at a standstill, many families grapple with a loss of income. Due to these mobility constraints, Palestinians lose a colossal 60 million working hours annually, translating to a financial loss of $274 million. These closures drastically decreased employment, reduced hourly wages, and the total working days for Palestinians. As you let these numbers sink in, take a second to hit that subscribe button. Now, let's continue. More than the loss of employment and access to the global market, Palestinians are also restricted in their access to natural resources. In a study published in 2015, it examined the significant economic implications of Israel's restrictions on Palestinian access to their natural resources. Israel, while leveraging these resources for its own advantage, has limited Palestinian accessibility, especially in Area C of the West Bank. This area is predominantly under Israeli military control, with only a minor portion available for Palestinian economic endeavors. But first, let's delve into a brief overview of how this division came about in the West Bank. In 1995, the Oslo II Accord segmented the West Bank into 3 distinct zones. As you can see on this map, the divisions have been scattered all over the West Bank. In the areas with dense Palestinian populations and developed regions that house the majority of the Palestinian inhabitants in the West Bank were labeled as Areas A and B and were formally given to the Palestinian Authority. These areas are scattered across 165 separate islands in the West Bank. The rest of the West Bank, making up 61%, was termed Area C. Here, Israel maintains complete authority over both security and civilian matters, including construction, infrastructure development, and planning. In totality, Area C surrounds the pockets of land that Palestinians inhabit in the West Bank. Now going back to Palestinians' access to natural resources, the financial strain on Palestinians is made evident when looking at one of the most basic needs that Palestinians have limited access to. For most of us, access to water might not be a daily concern, but for most Palestinians, that is not the case. The long-standing territorial disputes have rendered Palestine with limited access to water. Ironically, they have to purchase water from the nation they're in conflict with. Just in 2013 alone, Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza bought 63 million cubic meters of water, incurring a direct cost of $44 million paid to Mekarot, the national water company of Israel. Meanwhile, the Palestinian energy sector's growth has been notably hampered by policies and actions dictated by Israel. A striking example is from 2013, when the Palestinians, facing stringent constraints, bought 87% of their electricity from the Israeli electricity company. If not for the constraints that hinder Palestinians from generating their electricity, Palestinians could save approximately $388 million instead of buying it from Israel. Delving deeper, in 1999, a consortium including British Gas Group, the Consolidated Contractors Company, and the Palestine Investment Fund was granted exploration rights off Gaza's coast. By 2000, they discovered over 30 billion cubic meters of gas across 2 fields. The Gaza Marine, situated solely within Palestinian territorial waters with an estimated 28 billion cubic meters of gas, and the Border Field, an extension of the Israeli Noah Field, partly within Israeli territorial waters with 3.5 billion cubic meters. Combined, these fields are valued at over $6.5 billion based on 2010 prices. However, Israel's control and restrictions have hindered the project's progress, including gas extraction and sales. Israel hasn't supported the required pipeline extension to Egypt or provided the necessary clearances. If not for the obstacles that hindered the project, this could have substantially benefited the Palestinian economy, contributing around $160 million in income annually for 15 years. That being said, it would have been a $2.4 billion opportunity for the Palestinian economy. Adding to these economic constraints, Israel withheld Palestinian clearance revenues from December 2000 to December 2002. This action has significantly hampered the Palestinian National Authority's ability to manage its finances. Development projects have come to a halt, and the PNA faces challenges in meeting its financial obligations, which include paying public wages and settling bills with contractors and private suppliers. The curfews and financial holdups have fragmented the occupied Palestinian territory, turning it into isolated pockets of land. Each is surrounded by the Israeli Defense Forces, settlements, and their infrastructure. This division has severely disrupted the movement of goods and factors of production, leading to a sharp decline in local economic activities. According to the study conducted by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, the total economic cost of the more stringent Israeli restrictions from 2000 to 2019 is approximated to be $58 billion. While these figures already show an enormous loss for the Palestinians, this only amounts to a portion of the broader economic consequences faced by Palestinians. But all these massive economic costs aren't just a burden limited to Israel and Palestinians. A prolonged conflict can reach its effects on a global scale. First, the Middle East holds a significant portion of the world's oil reserves. Any instability in the region, including the Israel-Palestinian conflict, can lead to fears of supply disruptions. When there's uncertainty about oil supply, prices can spike. This affects everything from the cost of driving your car to the price of goods in the market. Second, there are many geopolitical ties. Many countries have strong political and economic connections with Israel, Palestine, or both. When conflict arises, these countries might reduce their investments or trade. Throughout history, when there's conflict in one region, allied nations might impose sanctions, cut trade ties, or take other actions that can affect the global market. Third is investor sentiment. The stock market isn't just about numbers, it's about emotions, too. Uncertainty about the Israel-Palestinian situation can make investors wary about their investments. And wary investors are never a good thing. This can make investors pull out of riskier assets, which can lead to stock market declines, not just in the Middle East, but potentially worldwide. The dollar figures, the politics, the territorial disputes, they're all vital aspects to gain some understanding of the Israeli and Palestinian conflict. But if there's one takeaway, it's the realization that no amount of money, no political victory, and no territorial gain can ever compensate for the most significant loss. That is, of innocent human lives. The real cost isn't just in the numbers we can count or the territories that can be mapped out, but in the unseen potential and lives that are forever lost. Behind every statistic, there's a name, a face, a family, and a story. First time here? Then leave us a comment and hit that subscribe button. And for another great video, just tap or click.